Hello YouTube. Hope you're all doing well today, and I want to talk with you a little bit about the addition of live plants to a cichlid tank. Very often when you see cichlid tanks on YouTube, or anywhere for that matter, very often they're very barren and rocky, and all you see really is sand and maybe a few rocks. These sword-like plants in my tank are Anubias, and Anubias are recommended for cichlid tanks because, first of all, they're from Africa, and they tolerate hard water, high pH, and there is a theory, which of course we can't verify since we can't get into the head of a fish, but there's a theory that they don't taste that good. Anubias don't taste that good to cichlids, so they tend to leave them alone. And they're also very good for a cichlid tank because you don't need to plant them in the substrate, because as we know, cichlids are constantly redecorating, as John Hudson likes to refer to it. They're constantly redecorating the tank and moving substrate around, creating little nests and moving stuff around. So in the process, of course, they dig up plants, and so you end up with a lot of plants floating around. That problem is solved because with the Anubias, they have a thing called a rhizome, or a sort of like a bulb in their root structure, and then they shoot out roots, and the entire rhizome and bulb and roots, that entire section can be actually out of the substrate. It doesn't have to be planted. These Anubias that you see here have never been in substrate. They are just stuck in rocks, jammed into holes that are in the rocks or wedged between rocks. And they've thrived. They've done really, really well. Even with the pleco, there's a pleco in here somewhere, and plecos are notorious for being hard on plants. The pleco has left these alone and has just kept them clean. I see him cleaning them from time to time. So, in the larger tank, I decided to go ahead and expand on the idea of Anubias in the 135, and I'm going to show you how I attached and added live plants in preparation for transferring the fish. I've gone ahead and added the live plants to the 135. Boy, I love that Z-Rock. Usually you don't excuse me. Usually you don't see him in the videos because he likes to hang out near the back of the tank. But he's a stunner, and of course everybody loves the Intermedius. All right, so let's take a look at the at what I did to add some live plants to the 135. So what I did is I went to the local fish store, in my case Pasadena Tropical Fish, PTS, and I picked up a whole bunch of their Anubias, different types of Anubias. It's a very broad-leafed Anubias, pretty good size. Look at the roots on this thing. These are all beautiful. They were, of course, packed in. The very large ones, the largest ones were not, but the rest of them were packed in this kind of stuff. So you have to take all of that off of the roots, and you end up with, you know, these types of plants. This is a smaller, like a nana, a smaller Anubias. Nana, I believe it's called, a smaller size Anubias. That might even be larger than a nana. But at any rate, then I have these rocks here from that I got from that I picked up. These are synthetic rocks. You can see they don't weigh much. No chance of cracking the tank. So what I'm going to do is I have them placed now in a way that where I can glue with super glue gel. I'm going to be gluing onto these rocks the plants. putting the larger plants on the larger rocks and then smaller plants as I go along. And I'm literally going to be gluing them onto the rocks. I'm going to be using a product called Super Glue Gel, and it's important that you use the gel because it doesn't run. It just sits on the item that you want to glue to, and so that lets you then just lay the plant on the rock, and then it just dries over the course of a few hours. You can even leave them overnight. These plants are these plants are pretty hardy. You could conceivably just leave them out overnight. The fellow who over at Pasadena Tropical Fish told me that these plants are actually grown in a misting environment. Here's some real nice specimens here. Look at the roots on that. So it's about all told maybe $80 in plants. If I'd bought them on the internet, I probably would have paid $125 with shipping, maybe $150 for this many nice Anubias. And fortunately, I have a good shop here locally. So I'm going to go ahead and glue them onto the rocks, and then we'll go from there. You can see I added a nice little section there of the gel, and you can see the way the gel doesn't run at all. Once you put the plant on, you should weigh the plant down, so there's putting a little pressure onto, not too much, but some pressure onto the super glue. In this case, I'm using one of the plastic rocks to pressure one of the plants that I've glued already, and hopefully that will hold so it doesn't go drifting around the aquarium. So the plants are all attached now. I've attached them with the super glue gel. I noticed that if you put a dollop of the super glue and then just put a little pressure, maybe 10 seconds of pressure on the plant, that it tends to stick, and then the super glue just sort of does its magic. This is the back of the rock, so you're seeing a lot of the roots and things. But from the front, what you're going to see the leaves peeking out from over the top of the rocks, which is the look I'm going for. Even though the roots themselves are kind of pretty, there's also a phony plant that was given to me as a not something I ordered from Universal, but they threw it in the box. They came a little bonus rock there, a little phony plant. We'll see how that looks. That might end up in the 60-gallon. We'll see. So the plants are now glued to the universal rocks, and now it's a matter of placing them in the tank and rockscaping with the live plants, which of course, if you've watched my videos, you know I'm big on, because they do help with the control of nitrates. Okay, so the glued plants have been installed along with the rocks. See where they attach to the back, and there's one there that I broke off because there's a little bit too much on this side. You can see the glue on the rock there. The tank is still clearing up, not quite as clear as I expect it to be. There's that one fake plant right there. Pretty obvious that it's fake compared to the other ones that are real, of course. And see, the plants look great. You can see all the roots. What you're seeing is the tank lit with the blue light. This is just plain white light. You can see the rocks from Universal, pretty nice. A little different from the background by design. I didn't want them to match perfectly, and of course I've got these wonder stones, which are real rock, which have very nice patterns on them. I might end up moving those to the 60-gallon, but I really like the way these Anubias plants turned out, and they will definitely be helping to control nitrates, as well as add a lot of nice color and variety for the fish. This lunar setting This lunar setting is actually my favorite setting. The fish kind of chill out in it, and it definitely has a moonlit quality to it, which I love. As you can see, the power heads are giving the plants a little bit of a slow motion. So overall, it's coming together well. And as you might have noticed, I have about 3 fish in here already, and I'll be adding a few more over the weekend, and little by little moving all the fish over from the 60-gallon. So that's it on the plant step of the project, and I'm sure that I'll probably be messing around with it, rearranging, re-rockscaping. Well, isn't that part of the fun, right? All right. I want to wrap up with just a shout out to Dustin over at Dustin's Fish Tanks for turning me on to and educating me on Anubias, and also to Corey over at the Aquarium Co-op, Corey at the Aquarium Co-op, for the idea on gluing and attaching plants, which I stole from a video of his. So if you want to get a nice tutorial on how to glue the plants, go to Corey's Aquarium Co-op. He has a video on the subject. And Dustin over at Dustin's Fish Tanks, he sold me my first Anubias plants that I have in the 60-gallon, and gave me a little education on how they do in cichlid tanks. So I want to thank him for that. I also want to thank Jay Wilson for his recent discussion on nitrates and setting up a tank. Kind of turned me on to this product, Stability. And I've added some stability to this tank, and hopefully that'll get things even more dialed in, so that I can now transfer over the rest of the fish. I'll probably end up moving this artificial plant over to the 60, or maybe just taking the plant off of the rock and keeping the small rock, which is actually a real nice little rock, keeping that in the tank. So we'll see where that goes. All right. So thank you so much for watching. As always, it's greatly appreciated. Be sure to subscribe and set the alert button so you can watch as I transfer the fish over, and check out the Facebook page if you want to discuss any of the subjects that I cover in the videos. Come on over to ben.o.cichlid on Facebook, and certainly you can follow also on ben.o.cichlid. You can follow me on Instagram. All right. Okay. So that's it for now.